The early morning of New Year's Day, 1856, was bitingly cold in Battleboro, Vermont. Early risers were bundled to their teeth against the cold, hurrying to reach their destinations in the least amount of time possible. There was nothing particularly unusual about this dawn. As the sun rose and cast its illumination across the landscape, the snow that covered the ground seemed to glitter, and on the corner of Linden and North Main Street, a glorious 8-foot stranger stood observing the newly waking town. Folks who were scurrying to avoid the cold from nipping their features and freezing their hands and feet came to a sudden and complete halt, staring with awe at the formidable figure who stood in absolute stillness, snow swirling around its person. The finely sculpted features of the figure were relaxed, seemingly not acknowledging the growing crowd of amazed gawkers. Its hair, left uncovered despite the elements, fell in a riotous profusion of perfect ringlets around its head, and its bare feet and arms were framed by delicately edged wings that rose above her shoulders, crossing over one another like an intimidating feathered cape, coming to rest in a relaxed manner on the snow-packed ground before her. In her hands she held a notepad and a plumed quill, with which she appeared to be recording the town's deeds. She radiated with a soft glow, with areas that were filled with sharper light as the sun hit her person, and those who happened upon her first were soon hustling back to their homes and excitedly gathering their families and friends, dragging them to stand before the incredible figure that guarded Main Street on this very first day of the new year. Rambunctious lads who spent most of their wintry holiday from school in snowball fights that spared no one and no thing refused to engage the icy angel in their play. Old men tipped their hats in passing, and others simply stood and admired the details of the sculpture. Papers across the country ran stories accompanied by rough illustrations, with the New York Sun styling the statue as the goddess of fame who had come to record the past year's history. The icy presence became known locally as the Recording Angel, or the Snow Angel, and there she stood surveilling the town for 2 whole weeks, until during the January thaw, the angel disappeared completely. The unusual visitation may have been the subject of curious conversation, but for one man, she was the catalyst that would launch him into his destiny. Even if she had only been meant to be a practical joke on his hometown when she had been conceived of. Larkin Mead, the son of a prominent lawyer in Battleboro, had lived on the east side of Main Street since he was 4 years old. His 2 friends, Edward and Henry Burnham, lived across the street where their father's foundry was located. Larkin was a quiet child, introspective, more interested in drawing plants and animals or carving things than in the normal sport of young men of the time. While working at the local hardware store in town, he kept a bit of marble behind the counter so that in between weighing out nails and wrapping packages, he could sculpt the stone into a pig. Which is just what the 19-year-old was doing when a vacationing New York artist peered behind the counter and discovered the lad's talent. He set him up to study sculpting under the tutelage of Henry Brown in New York, which went along swimmingly until he ran out of money 2 years later and returned home. There was a dismaying lack of need for trained sculptors in Battleboro, and the young man soon began giving drawing lessons in the town hall. But then came the New Year's Eve of 1855. Larkin and his 2 best friends from youth formulated what seemed like a fabulous prank to pull on their town. Larkin would use his dormant sculpting training to create a massive replica of an angel from snow, and Henry and Edward would keep their father's foundry going so they could melt the snow needed to harden the angel as he worked. The heat would also come in handy over the long night when they became too cold to continue. And so, under cover of the darkness, with the townfolk secure in their warm homes, the men went to work. Slowly, the angel began to take shape as Larkin's nimble fingers brought her to life from the packed snow, while his friends carried buckets of the melted stuff to pour over the figure, like a glaze which in turn froze the entire thing solid. She rose from the ground with a majestic demeanor, the folds of her dress seemingly caught mid-movement. The 3 diligent pranksters worked throughout the night until just before the sunrise, the angel towered before them in her full height. Satisfied that she fulfilled their expectations, they retired, leaving the unsuspecting early risers of Battleboro to discover their previous night's work as they headed to their own shops that Tuesday morning. Larkin Mead could hardly have anticipated what happened next. Within 2 years, people who remembered his feat with the snow angel commissioned him to create a 19-foot figure of agriculture to stand atop the Vermont State House, Montpelier. This led to another job, sculpting Ethan Allen for the same state house. As the country dissolved into civil war, Larkin, working as an illustrator for Harper's Weekly, depicted the scenes of battle from the front lines while embedded with the Army of the Potomac, as well as making topographical drawings for Brigadier General William Smith. Until, in 1862, he left for Florence, acting as an escort for his sister, who was marrying a man attached to the U.S. Embassy as a consul. In Venice, he fell in love and married his wife, Marietta de Benvenuti, who would act as the inspiration for his Venezia Bride of the Sea, now displayed in the Metropolitan Museum in New York City. He traveled back and forth between Italy and the U.S., working tirelessly at his art, and creating the exquisitely sculpted monument to Lincoln, which was a mausoleum in Springfield that he worked on over a period of 13 years, during which time he also completed a sculpture of Queen Isabella in Columbus for the capital of California, another statue of Ethan Allen for the Capitol building in D.C., and a monument for robber baron Diamond Jim Fisk for his gravesite on Prospect Hill Cemetery in Battleboro. His sculptures graced the World Fair in 1893, sit in museums, and are displayed on state capitol buildings or grounds across the country. Before his death in October of 1910, he was commissioned by Henry Willard of Washington, D.C., to recreate the recording angel in stone in memory of his parents who were from Battleboro. The 6-foot angel was made of Italian marble, and another smaller duplicate was made to be given to the Unitarian Church in the town where it all started. When its congregation moved in 1967, the angel moved to the library just a few feet from where the original 8-foot figure of ice had been sculpted so many years before. On his grave in Italy, another recording angel stands vigil over the slumbering sculptor, whose rare talents brought to life the holiday miracle meant to be a joke that ultimately determined its creator's future. We hope you enjoyed today's Advent video, and that if you did, you'll take a moment to just press the like button and comment, and even share with your friends and family, as all of it, as you know, helps our channel continue to grow. Merry Christmas to you, and we'll see you later.